Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. So today I've decided that Mondays are gonna be ChillCon days. Rather than spamming them out whenever, all over the place, willy-nilly, right, that's not a word, we're just gonna do them on Mondays, because, I don't know, it's a good way to start the week, isn't it? And then it gives you the whole week to listen to the ChillCon whenever, if you're playing a game, if, you know, whatever you're doing. And then it gives me time to do other videos. I've got some Black Flag stuff, and we'll be getting back into it, and everything will just be great, and I think this is a good thing. I've also got another video coming out tomorrow proposing a new idea that involves the community, similar to wishlist and quickfire topic sort of thing, but probably more similarly to wishlist. And I'll get that video out tomorrow. It'll just be a short video to sort of announce that. I've got some what ifs that I'm planning, and some like explained videos, because those will be fun, mostly kind of regarding things like Arno and Shay, actually, because they're not talked about as much, and I thought maybe we'll go into that. So that's exactly what we're doing today, and talking about my ideas and what I would love to see for an Arno sequel. It's something that I don't think we're ever going to get, but if we had gotten one back in 2015, or, you know, whenever, if Syndicate hadn't been a thing and we got an Arno sequel instead, what I think would have been a nice direction to take. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's ChillCon. So, first up, it would take place after Dead Kings, so if you haven't played Dead Kings, you should probably do that. It's actually one of the better Assassin's Creed DLCs, and being in Unity, that's really strange, but it is a good time. I actually quite like Dead Kings. I like the relationship between Arno and Leon, who's one of the characters from Dead Kings, and Arno, rather than taking the apple that he finds at the end of Dead Kings himself to Cairo in Egypt, he ends up staying with Leon, and we can only assume he trained Leon to be an assassin, you know, and that's how that went down. And this was around 1794, I believe. And so that would be where our game would start, in 1794. We get a nice, or maybe like a bit after it, maybe. I'm trying to think how far after, because timings do come into my theory a little bit later on. It can't be too much after. Maybe like just a little bit, so Leon's maybe just a little bit older. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with 5 years later. I don't know how old Leon is, so I wouldn't know. But Leon, just have him be like, you know, 14 to 16, I think would be a good age for Leon in this, because I think that would help the relationship and also push the story forward. Anyways, we can have a little prologue that starts off in Paris, and Arno and Leon can be free-running, trying to catch someone. It can just drop us straight into the action, and Leon can fuck something up, and the dude they're chasing can get away, right? And so Arno's like, oh, shit, you fucked up, and Leon will be like, oh, no, I tried my best, I was just trying to get him. And Leon's like, and then Arno can be like, oh, sometimes patience is better, or so, I don't know, you know, you can just lecture him or whatever, you know. Arno can be like this typical teacher character, and Leon can get mad and go off all mad, and Arno's like, oh no, Leon, come back, and then the game can, you know, whatever, kick into action from there on. And that sort of sets up their relationship of teacher and student, but also they're friends, because, and Arno's somewhat of a father figure too, because obviously Leon is an orphan, and so Arno can kind of be that father figure at the same time as being his teacher, and it's a very interesting dynamic there, because they're also, I'd say they're also friends, I would say. It's sort of, to me, it's sort of like an Anakin Obi-Wan type relationship, except, of course, not really the same at all, but that's sort of how that's set up, and how that goes on. Later on, I guess, I mean, we don't really know what happened after Unity to the Assassins. I'm pretty sure, like, the entirety of sort of all of the lore is sort of pretty mixed up and messy to do with Paris after, like, 1794. Because, I mean, we don't even know what Arno's doing at Dead Kings. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's an assassin, but, like, and he's got, like, the master robes, like, that's what they're called in the like, the UI. But, like, I'm not entirely sure as to whether the other dudes from the Brotherhood are still part of it, or whether, like, they left, or, like, died, or like Arno started like a new separate brother. Like, I don't really know exactly what happened there, so I don't know how this section would link to the next section of, you know, the story, but regardless of that, something happens. It could be a contact regarding the Brotherhood, or whatever, but Arno gets information regarding his father's murder, which he never knew much about, because obviously he grew up with Delacer and Elise, and he was sort of sheltered from all of that, and by the time he was old enough to do anything about it, it was kind of at a point where that was in the past, and he didn't know enough about it to really care, and it wasn't a pressing, urgent matter. He'd moved on, and that was it. It was done. It was dealt with. But at this point, he gets new information regarding his father's murder, the man that did it, etc. So that sort of sets up the way the game is going. When Arno knows about it, he's like, okay, so this is strange that it's coming up after such a long time. You know, what's going on here? And you've got to bear in mind, I'm talking from a position where Syndicate doesn't exist. Like, the whole story of Syndicate just doesn't exist in canon. Like, we're back in 2014. Like, Syndicate's not even been announced. That game does not exist, will never exist in this universe that I'm talking about. That's why this game will never ever happen. But just pretend that it doesn't exist in 2017 for this to be a lot more enjoyable. So, anyways, Arno gets this information. He's like kind of indifferent about it, I would say, because, I mean, like I said, at this point, like, Arno's moved on. Like, he doesn't really care anymore. Like, not that he doesn't care. Like, obviously he cares. Probably misses his dad from time to time, but he doesn't remember much, because, like, how old was he? Like, 8? Like, it's not something that would stay on your mind when you're, like, 30. You know what I mean? So, he's sort of moved on, so he's sort of indifferent, but, he goes and researches a little bit about it, just see if he can find some more information, and has some contacts here and there, and it's like, you know what, you go, you know, find out a little bit more about this for me, you know, and then, like, the first sequence or two of the game, would just be Arno with Leon in Paris, setting up their relationship, setting up sort of what they do, introducing you to the game, but at the same time, you're getting little bits of information from this dude that you sent off to find information about Arno's father's killer, because he's a little bit intrigued. So you keep getting these pieces of information, and then you get the big piece of information that the killer is in London, and that's where he's gone now. So we know that London has been in Templar rule ever since what Hatham did way back. He sort of conquered London for the Templars, and it's been in Templar control ever since. And this is where Shay would come into the picture, and he'd, of course, take the role of Crawford Starrick in this situation. In London, he'd be the Grand Master in London, I believe, at this point. By this point in time, you know, Hatham's dead, Connor's done all his shit in the colonies, and Shay has moved from Paris to London, and he's sort of worked his way up the ranks in London, and then taken over the Grand Master position in London at this point. So that's the point we're at now. And Arno's like, oh shit, well, I want to go to London. And another reasoning is because there's a piece of Eden there, which we know of, the Shroud. And that's another reason. So there's just two reasons why Arno is like, well, we got to go to London. Because, one, Templar control is never good, so time to liberate the whole city. His father's killer is there, and there's a piece of Eden. So there's three motivations for which Arno needs to go to London, for the assassins and for his own personal sort of vendetta there, which kind of drives the player somewhat. And he's like, well, Leon, you're not coming with me. You know, I'm going on my own. I'll take a few assassins with me, maybe like 3, and we'll just sort of go on our own. We'll build the Brotherhood while we're there, and, you know, that'll be that. By taking the 3 assassins with you, that sort of begins the Brotherhood system. So to replace this system of the Rooks, there's a Brotherhood system in place instead, very similar to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And so those assassins will be your sort of base starting assassins, very sort of weak. You have to upgrade them, send them on missions, etc. There's some more, you know, cool things they could do with that. That's just sort of your standard Brotherhood system with some better features in there, because obviously this is a newer game, so it's not going to be identical to Brotherhood. They could really elaborate on that in this game and make it really cool. However, when you reach London, it turns out that Leon, you know, snuck aboard your carriage or whatever you used to get there. And so Leon ends up being there. Arno's like, well, it's not safe to just send you back now. Like, they might follow you, or you might get into trouble. And Leon's not about to go back. He wants to help Arno. So there you go. Leon's got to help Arno in this story. You don't play as Leon, you just play as Arno. But there's a nice little relationship there where it's sort of like a Batman-Robin thing as well, in the way that Arno's like Batman, Leon's like Robin, sort of follows him around doing things with him. It's not like he's with you all the time, because that'd be really annoying. But there's some missions where you're with him, and there's there could be a whole set side story arc with which, when you interact with Leon, you have set missions with him. Which helps towards conquering London. But he is very integral to the story and Arno's relationship. He's sort of like, he's one of Arno's best friends, because he's the first person he sort of felt close to after Elise died. And, there's that sort of father-son bond there as well, which is really cool. So that would be an interesting story to tell. So the game sort of plays out similarly to Syndicate. It's a little bit more interesting. You can do some more interesting stories there. The Kenway Manor could be present again still, which would be really nice. But instead of being Templar occupied, Arno goes to the Kenway Manor, which he knows of, that he's learned through the Assassins. Instead of being Templar occupied, like I said, that can become the base of operations for Arno's Assassin Brotherhood. So they convert the Kenway Manor into the base of operations, similarly to the Cafe Theatre in Unity. So instead of being a train in this game, you get the Kenway Manor, and that's where you do all of your outfit changes, your customization for your weapons, and your preparations for the Brotherhood, and you can upgrade it, customize it. Very similar to the Villa Monteriggioni or the Cafe Theatre in Assassin's Creed Unity, and that'll be really nice. And as you unlock more things, you get to learn bits and pieces about the Kenway family and, what Edward did. And there could be certain things where when you collect collectibles, you learn more. You get to do, exotic missions where you go off and learn more about Pieces of Eden, or, find temples and secrets and manuscripts and stuff like that. Just things to add to the lore, and that can be nice little hidden things around the Kenway Manor that will give you insight into lore, story, Kenway stuff, which is just always really nice and also cool. The Shroud is obviously a part of this, like I mentioned. There's a Piece of Eden in London. It's the Shroud. And Shay is looking for it as well at this point. He's aware that Arno's in London. He doesn't really know the kid, but he does figure it out a little later down the line that Arno is the kid of Charles Dorian that he killed for the box. We don't know where the box ended up. I don't think it's even relevant to this game at this point. I'd say he gave it to Haytham, or... Oh, no, he couldn't have, because this was after Haytham died. I don't know what he did with it. It's irrelevant to my story. The box doesn't matter. Just forget the fucking box. It doesn't matter. Fuck the box. Anyway, Shay, like I said, is the replacement for Crawford Starrick. He's looking for the Shroud. Arno's looking for the Shroud. Arno's looking for Shay, building the Brotherhood, stopping the Templar rule. It plays out similarly to Syndicate, like I said. There's Templars dotted all over the place. In these different districts. They're not going to be gangs and boroughs, because that's... obviously there's going to be boroughs because it's London. Of course there are going to be boroughs. But what I mean is you're not conquering these boroughs in the same way that Syndicate did it. I think they could do it very Brotherhood style, but possibly a lot more upgraded. There's a lot more to it. Individual missions for each area, individual stories. Very similar to the Templar hunts, actually, I think would be good. Templar hunts combined with liberating boroughs, combined with... the main assassinations from AC1. So you can do a lot of interrogation, eavesdrop, pickpocketing, investigation missions, some preparations for things, helping out the Brotherhood in the area, taking out a few lieutenants, then boom, the big assassination, and you have one for each borough. That's a big, nice assassination. You also have, obviously, main story missions that are woven throughout of you trying to find the Piece of Eden, and you're also trying to take out the Templars, very Revelation style in that way, and very similar to the Jacob-Evie split, but I'd say more 50-50 split rather than 70-30 to do with, Templar, Piece of Eden, respectively. So that means the Jacob-Evie sections will be split 50-50 for Arno, but then you don't have to, have the split doesn't matter because it's just missions, it's not characters, because you're doing all of these missions as Arno, so it really balances it a lot better. Now, as for historical figures, there wouldn't be the same ones, of course, as in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because obviously this is, 80 years difference? So it would be a little bit different in that respect, but you've got to remember this is Arno's story, not a historical story, so it doesn't necessarily matter what historical figures show up. There'd be a few, whichever were about at the time. You get a couple here and there, like you do with every Assassin's Creed game, but they're not integral, they're not important. The important story here is Arno. And with this, of course, you wouldn't get the rope launcher, which is a plus for me, because I fucking despise the rope launcher. Instead, what I would suggest is zip lines, possibly, just around the city. Just a few zip lines. You don't have the rope launcher to shoot to the top of the buildings, but there could be a zip line here and there, you know, that the assassins have just put in. Why not? Or you could just have beams across buildings, stretching across the streets. Like, who really cares? Like, I'm sure that'd be fine, wouldn't it? I mean, who gives a shit? I just really don't want the rope launcher. Let's just find a way around it. But that's essentially the story there. Training Leon is a part of the game as well, of course. Like I said, you get missions where you're training up Leon, because relationships and story and characters development, you know, is there. Why not? Interesting. Arno throughout the game develops and learns more about the first Civ through the Kenways, but also through his development of knowledge of the Pieces of Eden. As he finds more information about where the Shroud could be, he learns more little things here and there. There could also be more things like secrets around the city, that when you unlock these secrets, you learn more things, as well as, you know, other gameplay elements that are just there for the player and stuff like that. Just very interesting things. Don't want to go too deep into the detail of how the game would play. I'm more going through the story here, but there are little things here and there that I want to touch upon. So, of course, Arno eventually learns of Shay Patrick Cormac. He learns his name, he learns his story, he learned that he was an assassin at one point, but defected to the Templars because he didn't agree with what the Colonial Assassins were doing. Arno, being Arno, also disagreed with the Colonial Assassins, I would say, after figuring out what they did, so he sympathizes with Shay in that aspect. He also sympathizes in the way that he knew Elise. Elise didn't agree with everything the Templars were doing. She didn't agree with Germain, and they worked together, and so, you know, he can sympathize that Shay, there is some sort of grey area there, and there is, you know, which side is the right side. Different people, different times will give a different outcome, and so Arno understands that. Arno understands Shay in that aspect, but then again, Shay, after being with the Templars for so long, he's become far more ruthless, far more dark than what we saw from him in Assassin's Creed Rogue. He still doesn't want to harm innocents. He still thinks that he doesn't like what... He wouldn't have been a Crawford Starrick, because Crawford Starrick was a fucked up, you know, kind of psychologically unstable guy. And Shay wouldn't be that. Shay's a lot more of a grey area Templar. And I think that he does believe in control, as a Templar should. He's kind of, at this point in his life, really sort of invested in the Templar ideals, but he's still not an all-round bad guy. I'd equate him to more of Haytham, a Haytham-type character, in which his ideals of control, you're like, okay, we can't just control people, but I do get what you're getting at. And so for the player, it is a little bit conflicting. You know, do we kill this guy? You feel bad for Arno, but you also get Shay at the same time as you're learning more about him through Arno. So since you're learning these things through Arno and not through Shay, you're still with Arno, and you still do think that Shay deserves to be killed, because you're learning it through Arno's perspective. So when you're learning these things where you're like, okay, I get Shay, like I get what he's doing, I do understand him more, you are still with Arno, therefore you still are against Shay. Whereas if you were learning about Shay's past through Shay, you'd probably be with Shay, and you'd be like, why are we killing, you know, why are we killing him? Which is why I think this works well, because it's not the Haytham Connor scenario where you play as Haytham, then you play as Connor and kill people that you like. You play as Shay and Rogue, and then Shay in this game is way older, he's changed quite a bit, he's recruited new dudes, so you're more against him than you are with him, but there is a grey area there to make it more interesting and conflicting for the player, and so it makes that way more emotional when you do eventually have that final battle with Shay in the temple, same as Crawford Starrick, I would say, but make the temple maybe a bit more elaborate. It's a bit shit in Syndicate, and he gets the Shroud finally. And, you know, he has the Shroud, and he's back to full strength, you know, because he's an old dude. He's like, what, 67, I think, by the time this game will be taking place. And so the Shroud brings him back to full force. So, of course, he's old throughout the game. He's not going to take on Arno, you know, up front. Arno's like, what, mid-30s? He's in his prime at this point, whereas Shay is old. So he's not going to take him on up front until he has the Shroud. In which case, now he's back to full force. He can't die, so he's going to take on Arno. Have a nice little boss battle there. Maybe a little bit different to what happened with Crawford Starrick, because that was a little bit boring. But eventually, Leon could show up to help Arno in his struggle, pull off the Shroud or whatever, and Arno can kill Shay. You have the nice little conversation there between Shay and Arno, they have a little back and forth, mutual respect for each other, because Arno worked with a Templar, Shay was once an assassin. Arno can forgive him, you know, for killing his father, because he doesn't hold it personally. Arno's killed so many people at this point, he's wise. He knew Shay had to die, because he's a Templar, and he's controlling the people, but he killed him for that reason, for the good of the Brotherhood, and not for his own personal vendetta. It's very similar to when Ezio forgave Rodrigo and sort of said, you know, killing you's not going to bring my family back. The only difference here is Arno kills Shay because that's what he should have done. Just like Ezio should have killed Rodrigo. It was dumb for him not to, but of course he couldn't kill him because Rodrigo didn't die in 1499, which is probably the only reason that he didn't kill him, because of historical reasons, which I still think is a really dumb thing of Ezio to have done, but that's not the point of this video. The point is that Arno does kill Shay at this point, but regardless of that, there's no ill will, there's respect between the two. They're both veterans in their own right and in their own order, and Shay respects that. He, you know, passes away gracefully, and that's how sort of the game ends. And you take the shroud, they hide it away somewhere, because I think it's absolutely fucking retarded that Jacob and Evie, after defeating Starrick, put the shroud back where they found it. Because why would you do that? It makes no sense. So they can hide the shroud somewhere else. That could link to the modern day, but I'm not talking modern day in this video because this is more about Arno's story. But that's essentially the story I would have told. It's not as intricate and detailed as maybe I'd like. If I was gonna write this out, I would flesh it out like loads. If someone wants to take this idea, flesh it out, and write like a actual like fan fiction on it, that'd be fucking awesome. Someone should totally do that, because I really like this idea, and I would totally read that as like an alternate Assassin's Creed story, which would be awesome. But essentially that's that. Let me know your guys' thoughts. If you liked this video on my idea of how I would do an Arno sequel, let me know your thoughts on what other alternate Assassin's Creed stories I could tell for Chillcoms, and like ideas I could come up with. Whether it's, you know, how would I do an Edward sequel, or, you know, what would I do with a character like Connor in the future, you know, things like that. Let me know your thoughts. If you'd like to see things like that, give me some ideas for characters I could come up with stories for. This isn't like a what if, because it's not a perfect lore sort of what if this happened, well, how would it have changed, and it's not an explained, it's this like in-between stage, and it's not a new series. Like I was thinking I could come up with this and make it a new series, but not really, because there's only a few I could really do. So I thought, why not just make it a Chillcom? Because I can just come up with a few notes, some few base ideas, and then just chat about it and see what you guys think. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope you thought this was a nice idea. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know future ones you'd like me to make. And like I said, tomorrow I'll be releasing a video talking about a new series I want to start doing regarding community ideas on things, and I'll elaborate on that in tomorrow's video. So stay tuned for that. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Stay subscribed for more videos, and I'll see you all next time. See you later.